In this Python tutorial, you will learn everything you need to code in Python. Code 4 helps you in learning Python and IGCSE Computer Science, so make sure to subscribe if you are new to this channel. We also make short videos on Python topics, so if you are interested, you may watch those videos as well. The link is in description, or you can click the card on your screen right now. In this video, we will be fully using Google Colab. So let's get started. If you aren't familiar with Google Colab, you can watch the 5-minute video on how to use it and how to get started. And then you can come back to watch this video. First up, let's learn about variables. So, variables are used to temporarily store data in computer memory. So, there are some rules on how you should name your variable, and I'll be telling you what are those rules now. So, the table on your screen is the list of some reserved keywords in Python, and these names must not be your variable name. So, rule number one is keywords should not be variable's name. Rule number two is variable name must not start with a number. And rule number three is variables must not contain any special characters except underscore. This is the underscore symbol. So these are the three rules you need to know while framing a variable. You also have to remember that Python is a case-sensitive language, and I will show you an example for it later. So first, let's assign a variable for holding a value. Let's name it var. So this is a variable name. Now, after typing in the variable name, you just type in the equal to symbol and type the value for the variable. var is equal to 5. Now, the variable var holds the value 5. So now, if you want to print that variable, using the inbuilt function print and open brackets and type the variable name. So print var. When you run it, the value 5 gets printed. This is how you assign a variable and print the value of the variable. So I am assigning the value 3 to var now, and I am going to make another line called var is equal to hello world. So this is some data types used in Python. This is string. String is group of characters enclosed in a quotation mark, and this is integer. Now, if you print var, hello world gets printed. This is because Python runs sequentially. So the last value stored in the variable gets printed, and this is called dynamic typing. So you can make a variable point to a value of different type by assigning the value of that type, and this is called dynamic typing in Python. There is something called multiple assignments in Python. So you can assign a same value to multiple variables. That is, let's name variable A, another variable B, another variable C, A equal to B equal to C is equal to 10. This way, all three variables A, B, C holds the same value 10. Now if you print B, 10 gets printed. If you print C, the same 10 gets printed. There is also another option for assigning multiple values to multiple variables. So a variable named A, comma, another variable named B, another variable named C is equal to 1, 2, 3. So ABC is equal to 1, 2, 3 respectively. Now, if you print B, 2 gets printed. Now, if you print C, 3 gets printed. I hope you understand how multiple assignments work in Python. So now I'm going to show you some data types available in Python. Number is equal to 5, decimal is equal to 19.9, text is equal to code 4, and boolean is equal to true. So these are some data types available in Python. The first one is called the integer, a whole number. This can be 0, positive number, or negative number. The next one is the floating point, that is, it contains decimal values. The next one is the string. As I told you earlier, group of characters enclosed in quotation mark. And the last one is the Boolean values, true and false. Now, true and false. This is the Boolean values. Here, true T is capital and in false F is capital. But what if you type x is equal to true? Now, if you print x, there will be a error. That is, name true is not defined. It is a name error. But what if you print the variable boolean as I assigned over here? This will also be an error because the same x is equal to true is not defined. So let's remove this line. Now, if you print, true gets printed. This is because Python is a case sensitive language. So how should I make that error disappear? You have to write x is equal to true in quotation marks. This will make this value as a string. So I hope you understand. Now let's talk about how to receive an input from a user. So in Python, there is an inbuilt function called input, and it is used to read the values entered by user. So type input and open parenthesis and open quotes and type in the message. Example, what is your name? So this way you can receive the input. Now if you run it, there will be a dialog box for you to type in the message or the value, code 4. So this way your input gets stored. Now if you want to assign a variable to this input, you can assign it by suggesting a name for the variable, such as name is equal to input, what is your name. Now you can print hello plus name. So now if you run it, type in your name and it says hello code 4. Now if there is no space in between hello and the quotes, it says hello code 4 without a space here. And this is because this type of function is called the string concatenation. Here, two strings are added without a space. So this is why you always leave a space so that there is a space as in the output as well. But if you no need to use this, you can use the comma operator and type in the variable. This way, the space is automatically defined. So as you can see here, the space is already defined. So this is how you receive an input from the user, and I hope you understand it. There's also something I need you to remember, that is the default input data type is string. So to convert a string to integer or float or boolean values, there is something called type conversions. And now we'll take a look at those. First, let's learn where type conversions need to be used, and then we will learn how to do it. So let's assign a variable called number. So number is equal to input, enter a number. Here we are getting a number from the user. Now we are going to find the difference between this number and 100. So difference is equal to 100 minus number, and we are going to print the value. So print difference. Here difference is the variable name. So now if you run it, we are going to enter the number. I am typing in 15. So there is a error called type error, that is unsupported operand type for int and str. So this is because the default input data type is string. So here the data type you have received is string, and here we have used a integer. So in string cannot be subtracted with an integer, or an integer cannot be subtracted with a string. So this is why you type in a function called the int function. This converts any value to a integer data type. So int of input will make this program work perfectly fine. So 15. The difference is 85 and it is right. So now I'm going to type in a decimal number, that is 1.1. Now this is error because invalid literal for int with base 10. So this is why you have another function called the float to convert any values to float numbers. So you type in float here, and now if you run the program, it will work perfectly fine for integers as well as float. 1.1. This way the answer is 98.9. And what if you type an integer 15? Here it says 85.0. This point 0 comes because the highest order is float, so it is represented as a floating number. Now I hope you understand where type conversions need to be used. So int function changes something to an integer data type. Float function changes the data type to float data type. The str function changes to string data type. And lastly, the bool data type state changes to boolean values. Suppose x is equal to 5. Print bool of x. Um, I'll delete this code. Now you can see that the answer is true. But if x was 0, the answer is false because 0 is considered as a false value in boolean data type. So now let's put all our learning in a different code to calculate sum of two numbers. First, we are receiving the first number, num1 is equal to input, enter a number. The second number, num2 is equal to input, enter another number. So the sum is equal to num1 plus num1 plus num2. Now you're going to print the sum of two numbers is plus sum. So if you run it, this program is wrong. So there will be an error. Now if I type in 14 and another number 12, it says 1412. This is because these both numbers are taken to be as a string, and the string is added up. As I told you earlier, it is called a string concatenation. So now you have to change it to float of input so that decimal numbers as well as integers number can be taken into account. So now if you type in, so enter a number 15, another number 14. It says type error because you cannot concatenate string to float. So here instead of a plus sign, you have to use a comma operator. So now the code works perfectly fine. As you can see here, the sum of two numbers is 29. This is how you use the type conversions in a code. So now we will be learning about arithmetic operators in Python. So there are some operators like what you have learned in math, the addition symbol, plus sign, the subtraction symbol, the multiplication symbol is asterisk sign, and for division you have two things, the one slash and the double slash, and to find a remainder you have the modulus sign, that is the percentage symbol, and for exponents you have the double asterisk sign. Now I'll be telling you examples for all these. So x is equal to 3 plus 5. This way you can add two numbers. Now x is equal to 3 minus 5. This way you can subtract two numbers, 3 into 5, or here the asterisk sign is used for multiplication. This way you can find the product of two numbers, and for division there are two types. So the normal division is 10 slash 3. This way you get the real answer with the floating point. But if you want the quotient alone or the integer part of the quotient, you can use double slash. This way you get the answer as 3. Now to find a remainder of some division, you use the percent symbol. This is called the modulus operator, and you get the remainder as 1. And for finding the exponents, 10 star star 3, 10 to the power of 3, that is 1000. And there is also another rule, that is always exponent sign or read from right to left. So 10 to the power 3 to the power 2 is actually 3 to the power 2 and 10 to the power that number. So this is the answer as it goes from right to left. I hope you understand how arithmetic operators work. So now we are going to find the square of a number. So a is equal to 5 and a is equal to a multiplied by a, and let's print a. This way we can find the square of a number. So 5 square is 25. You can also write this like a star equal to a. This is also the same thing. So this is called augmented operator, and it works for all arithmetic operators. Relational operators. These are used to find the relationship between two values, and the output is in the form of Boolean values, either true or false. So there are six relationship operators: the greater than, the less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, is equal to and not equal to. So for is equal to, you need to use two equal signs, and for not equal to, the exclamation mark and a equal to sign. So let's see an example for all these things. Relation is equal to 5 greater than 3. Print relation. So as 5 is greater than 3, the boolean value is true. So now 5 less than 3. This is obviously false. So the output is false. Now if you want to check whether it's greater than or equal to, you can use it like this. And for less than or equal to, you can use it like this. This is false because it's not less or not equal. And for is equal to, you can use it like this. So 5 is not 3, so it is false. And for not equal to, you can use exclamation mark and equal to sign, and this is true. This is how you use relationship operators. And numbers are compared after removing trailing zeros. So, for example, 3 is equal to 3.0. This is true because numbers are compared after removing the trailing zeros. But string is compared using ASCII values. So you must have learned ASCII values earlier. And this is all about relational operators. Now let's move on to identity operator. So there are two identity operators, is and is not. So A is B. This will return true if both operands point to the same object. A is not B. This will return true if both operands point to different objects. So let me show you an example. X is equal to 5. Y is equal to 5. Parent X is Y. So both the operands point to the same object. So this is true. Now what if Y is 6 and I type X is not Y? This will also be true because both are different. Now let's take a look at another example. A is or name is equal to John. Now another thing, name 1 is equal to input, enter your name. Print name is equal to name 1 and print name is name 1. So the first variable name holds the value John. I'm going to input the same name to name one variable, that is John. Now we are comparing this third line is name equal to name 1. This is true because John is equal to John and it's compared using ASCII values. But is the name first variable is name 1. This is false because although the name is same, both the operands point to different objects. I can show you why it is false now. So print id name. This way you can get the id of the name, that is the location where it is saved. Print id of name 1. So name is John And as you can see, both the IDs are different. So the objects are different. So it says false. I hope you understand what are identity operator now. Now let's move on to logical operators. In Python, we have three logical operators: logical AND, logical OR, and logical NOT. So logical AND will return true whenever both the values are true. If either of the value is false, the output is false. The OR operator will return true if any of the value points to true, and the NOT is just the inverse. If it is true, the output will be false, and if it is false, the output will be true. So now let's see an example. Let's assign a variable number is equal to 25. Now print whether number is greater than 10 and number less than 30. So the output will be true because 25 is greater than 1 and 25 is less than 30. So the output is true. But what if is number greater than 15, less than 26, 24? This will be false because 25 is greater than 24. Although here 25 is greater than 15, this will evaluate to true, but this will evaluate to false. So true and false means the output is false. Now let's see the OR operator. So OR here will refer to true because if either of the input is true, the output will be true. Now, for a NOT operator, we require only one criteria: not number greater than 100. So the number is less than 100, so the answer is true. This is the functions of the logical operator. Now let's move on to something more important. So this is the operator precedence. So the values are evaluated in this order. First parenthesis is evaluated, next exponentiation, next negative and positive argument, and then these. So these are something you need to keep in mind and proceed with writing the code. Now I'll show you some examples. So x is equal to 5 plus 3 multiplied by 2. Can you guess what the output will be? You may guess it is 16, but it is wrong. This is because of the operator precedence. First, 3 into 2 is evaluated and then it is summed up with 5. So the answer is basically 11. As you can see here, the output is 11. What if you need the answer to be 16? You could add the parenthesis and make this get evaluated first. So 5 plus 3 gets evaluated first. 8 into 2 is 16. This is why parentheses are most important and operator precedence is also important. Now let's move on to something called the math module. So there is something called the math module in the Python library. So to use that you need to import it. So type import and the module name is math. So import math. Now you can use the math module in your code. So before using any math function, you always have to import math. So let's see an example. Y is equal to math dot cos of 15. This will give you the answer of cos 15. So print y. So you can see the answer. There are a lot of functions provided by this module. As you can see here, x is equal to math dot. So there are a lot of functions and you can try it on and comment it below on what was the example you used all these functions for. Now let's move on to string manipulation. So this is an interesting topic where we will see a lot of things you could do with strings. There are a lot of functions available with strings, although I won't be able to explain all the functions. If you need a video for that, comment that below. So first, let's see string concatenation. Although I have explained it earlier, I'll explain it once again. Let's type x is equal to t plus cup. Now if you print x, t and cup gets added without a space and the output is t cup. So you can add it like variables too, that is x is equal to t, y is equal to cup, and if you z is equal to x plus y, and if you print z, the same output will be shown, t cup. Now you have to be very cautious with using this because x is equal to 2 plus 3. Print x. So this is 5. But what if this was string? X is equal to 2 plus 3. So the answer will be 23 because it takes 2 as a string, 3 as a string, it adds together and the output is 23. So you must be careful while using string concatenation. Next up is string replication, and for this we use this operator, the asterisk symbol. So now to replicate a string a set of times, you just assign a variable, let's name it var, and type in the string subscribe. And now you use the asterisk sign and type in any integer number, suppose 3. This will replicate subscribe 3 times when you print the variable. So you can see subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Or you can use it the other way around too. 3 multiplied by subscribe, the output will be same. You have to be cautious with using string replication too because x is equal to 2 multiplied by 3 is 6. Now if you make this as a string, this will be 3 3 because 3 gets replicated twice. Now for using the string replicator, one should be an integer, another should be string. This is the basic rule. Now let's see membership operators in string. There are two membership operators in Python, in and not in. So for example, name is equal to code4, needed is equal to code. So these operators, that is the membership operator, is used to check whether a string which you need is a part of another string. So print needed in name. This will be true because code is a part of this string. And another membership operator is not in, and this will be false because code is a part of code4. Now I am using two variables here. You can also do like this. name is equal to code 4, print code in name. Here we are using a string and this is a variable. We are checking whether a string is there in variable and this will be true. I hope you understand how membership operators work. So now we are moving into another interesting part, that is string slicing. Before we get on to this topic, you have to learn what is index. So let me assign a variable message is equal to subscribe code 4. Don't forget to subscribe our channel because subscribing this is worth it. So index is the location of the characters. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on. The index always starts from 0. So the character S is at the index 0. The character U is at the index 1. The character B is at the index 2 and so on. The spacing is also having index number. So now for slicing you need the index numbers. So message is equal to subscribe and now message open square brackets. This is how you slice. Message 0. This will print yes. So at the 0 index, yes is the character. So if you need a part of string, you type in the first index and type in the last index plus 1. So if you want till yes, so this yes is at the index 0, 1, 2, 3. So if you want till here, you need to type 0 to 4. This is because it is always 4 minus 1 while the output is given. So as you can see, SUBS is the output. So if you need a part of a string, that is message is equal to subscribe. Now you can type message open square brackets 0 a colon and then another index number, that is 6. So it gets printed until the fifth index. This is because it gets evaluated from the starting index to the last index you have entered minus 1. So 6 minus 1 is 5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So SUB is the output. Now, if you want a step value while printing, you can set another colon and type in the step value, that is 2. For each thing, there will be 2 jumps and the characters will be printed, that is S, B, and C until the last index minus 1. I hope you understand how string slicing works. What if it was a negative number, that is message minus 1? The output will be E. This is because the strings are also indexed from right to left in negative numbers. So it starts from minus 1. So E is negative 1, B is negative 2, I is negative 3, and so on. And this is all about string slicing. And let's take a look at some string functions. So now let's assign a variable name is equal to John. And the first function we are going to see is the length of a string. Let's assign a variable length or just len, and the predefined function is len open parenthesis and type in the variable name len of name. Now if you print len, you get the output as 4. This is the length of the name John. So now for other functions, you just assign another variable such as y is equal to name dot and you get the list of functions. Suppose capitalize and type in the function name and open parenthesis. And then if you print y, the first letter of the string is in uppercase and the rest remains in lowercase. And so there are a lot of functions you could try with string. Make sure you explore that and comment it below, such as x dot is alpha. This will tell you whether the string is alphanumeric or not. Another such function is x dot index, where you can find the index of a particular character, such as x dot index yes. Let's assign this a variable y equal to, and let's print y. The first occurrence of yes will be the index number. So the first occurrence is at 0. So the index number is 0. So this is how you can use the functions available with string. Now let's move on to conditional statements. So conditional statements are if statements and they are used to make decisions in our program. To see a detailed 15-minute video, click the card on your screen right now. So let's declare a variable amount or just cash is equal to 20. So you have $20 in your hand right now and you are going to compare the price and the cash you have. So price is equal to float of input of enter the price. And we are going to see whether you have the right amount of cash or is it cheap or is it too high that you could not afford it. So if this is just basic English. If price is greater than 20, we are checking if the price is greater than 20. After you type in the sentence, place a colon here and you see a small space here. This is because of the indentation. Indentation occurs automatically and this should be there to make your code the correct one and to work perfectly fine. So if price greater than 20, you have to say you will not be able to afford it. Elif. Elif is another if statement, that is else if, and another condition testing statement. Elif price greater than 10 and price less than 20. So here we are using a logical operator, and so both the condition must be true for the output to be true. So print you have the right amount of cash. Now the last thing, the else statement. Else print it's too cheap. So if all these or all the both of the condition evaluate to false, else statements get evaluated no matter what. If the if statement gets evaluated to true, this will be your output. If the elif statement evaluates to true, this will be your output, and for else statement this will be your output. Now let's run it. So the price of the object I need to purchase is $25. Now it says you'll not be able to afford it because I have only $20 in my hand right now. Now if I type the price as $15, it says you have the right amount of cash. Now if I type it as $1, it says it's too cheap. So this is how the if statements, elif statements, and the else statements work. For better understanding, click the video link in the description on conditional statements. Now let's talk about while loop. We use while loop in Python to repeat a block of code a set number of times. So for example, what if you needed to print subscribe 5 times? Your basic idea would be just type print subscribe and Do the same for the next 5 lines. But what if the question was printed for 1,000 times or 10,000 times? This would take forever. So to make this easy, we have the while loop. So first you have to assign a variable and assign a value to it. Let me name the variable as I is equal to 1. The general syntax is you type while I and a condition, that is while I less than or equal to 5, and place a colon, and it gets indentated automatically. While I less than or equal to 5, print subscribe. Now you have to increment the value of 5 or else it will be an infinite loop. So now if you run the program, it says subscribe 5 times. So this is how you use the while loop. So the second line is the condition while I less than or equal to 5. And this block repeats until this condition evaluates to false. So here in while loop, the requirement is first you need to declare a variable which you are going to use in the while loop, and you must always increment the variable. What if this line was not there? Subscribe would be printed until the memory runs out. So it is an infinite loop. So now let us take a look at a different code, such as printing a pattern. So I is equal to 1, while I less than or equal to 10. Print I multiplied by the pattern sign. We'll use the exclamation mark and then increment the variable I is equal to I plus 1. Or you can use the augmented operator, that is I plus equal to 1. So now if you run it, this is the pattern and it gets generated. So this is because here we are replicating the string as I told you earlier in string manipulation section. So first the I is set to 1 and the exclamation mark gets printed once. When I is 2, it gets printed twice and thrice and so on. This is where while loops are used to repeat a set of code a set number of times. Now let's move on to the next section. So now we are going to be taking a look at list. Lists are group of comma separated values enclosed in square brackets. So you have a list of names, such as let's declare a variable name. Name is equal to open the square brackets and a list is created. This is an empty list where no elements is present. So now you type in the names such as John. The names are string data type, so enclose it with quotes. John, comma, Catty, comma, Ken. So now a list is created. Now if you print the variable, you would get the list. So there are many functions you can do with the list, such as index, slicing, append, extend, pop, etc. And I will be showing a few examples based on list. So now let's take a look at the indexing. So print name 0. So John is the 0 element, Catty is the first, and Pen is second. So the index is like this: 0, 1, and 2. So now if you print name 0, John gets printed. As you can see here, John gets printed. Now, what if it was 0, 2? Here, H gets printed. Why? This is because first we are gathering the 0th element, that is John. Under this element, we are finding the second index. So J is 0, O is 1, and H is second. So H gets printed. Now you can use the index numbers to slice, such as name is 0 to 1. There will only be John because last index will be subtracted from 1, so only 0 will come, that is John. If you type 0 is to 3, then all 3 gets printed. This is how you slice something. You can also modify the list, such as you can replace something. Name 0 is equal to code. So this way, John is replaced by code. Now if you print name, there is no John anymore, as you can see here. This is how you can modify a list. Now we are going to learn some list functions and methods. So the general syntax is list object, that is the variable name you have declared to store the list, dot method name, open parenthesis. This is the general syntax. Now that you know the general syntax, let's see some examples. Now I'm going to declare a variable a is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first function we are going to see is length of a variable or length of the list. Print len a. You type in the method name and type the variable name inside the brackets. So this way the length gets printed, that is 4. Now another function is finding the index value of a element. So I'm going to find the index value of the element 3 here. So type the variable name, that is a dot index, and the element is 3. So if I print this, 2 gets printed. So the element 3 is at the index 2. Another function is called the append function. So a dot append 5. In an append function adds an element to the end of the list. Now if you print a, this is the list. 5 gets added to the list. So once again, if you type a dot append 6 and print a, now 6 gets appended to the list. This is the use of append function. What if you need to insert an element at a particular index or a particular place? So you have the function called insert. A dot insert. First type in the index value you need to insert. 2, comma, type in the value 5. Now if you print a, you can see that 5 gets added here. At the second index, 5 gets added. This is the use of insert function. Now let's see pop function. A dot pop, and you type an index number, that is 2. Now if you print a, 1, 2, 4 gets printed. Here 3 is at the index 2, so it gets removed. You can also remove a value. If you don't know the index number, you can use a value. For that, you use the function remove. Remove 2. So print a will give 1, 3, 4. Here 2 gets removed. This is not the index number, this is the value. In pop function, you have to type in the index number, whereas in the remove function you have to type in the value. Now you can sort a list using the sort function. So the list is 4, 1, 3, 2. A dot sort. Now if you print A, the list is sorted in ascending order. This is the use of sort function. And there are many more functions using list and you can explore them. So now we will be learning about something called tuples. Tuples is also similar to list, but it is different in some terms. So this is a group of values separated by commas and enclosed in parentheses. A is equal to 1, 2, 3. Here it is not square brackets, it is parentheses. So this is a tuple. There are some tuple methods and functions, and I will be telling some examples using them. So there is a tuple function to make the input as tuple. So declare a variable A is equal to tuple of input, enter a sequence. Now print A. Here you no need to type the sequence separated by commas. You can just type it like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This will make a tuple 1, 2, 3. It is enclosed in string, so this is not an integer as you can see. Now let's see some other functions related to tuple. Now let's declare a variable number is equal to 1, 2, 3, minus 1, minus 2, minus 5, 2, 3, 1, 10. Now we are going to see some functions. Print min number. So this way the number which is minimum in value gets printed. As you can see here, minus 5 gets printed. For the maximum value, max of number. So 10 is the maximum number, so 10 gets printed. If you want to find the sum of the numbers present in the list, type sum and the sum gets printed. As you can see here, it is 14. And so on. You can use length to find the length of the tuple, that is 10. More importantly, you cannot change or alter a tuple like you did it in the list. This is because tuple is immutable data type and lists are mutable. So number 0 is equal to 2. If you did this in list, 1 would have changed to 2. But here it will show you an error because this is tuple. As you can see here, type error, tuple object does not support item assignment. This is something you need to remember. The for loop of Python is designed to process the items of any sequence, such as a list or a string. Now we are declaring a variable name is equal to A, B, C. Now if you want to print it, you just write print name and it gets printed, that is here. But what if you need the elements separately, such as A, B, and C line by line? For that, you use the for loop to transfers. So, for elements in name, print elements. So A, B, C gets printed. Now I'll tell you how this works. So for each element in name, here elements is any word. For each element in name, the element gets printed. So if it is 5, 5 gets printed. If it is A gets printed, then B and then C. You have a range function linked to the for loop and we'll see it a bit later. So the same thing you could have also done using the while loop and I'll show you how. In while loop you need to declare a variable at the start of the code and always increment the value of the variable or else it will transform into an infinite loop. But here in for loop it is much more easier. So in while loop you first type I is equal to 0 and while I less than the length of name. Then you have to print a name I. Here we are printing the index value and then at that particular index the value is present and that gets printed. And then we are incrementing it I is equal to I plus 1. So the same output, but here this is 4 lines, but when we used for loop it was just 2 lines. So it saves memory and saves time. Now let's see the range function. So now we are going to talk about the range function. In Python, we use the range function to generate a sequence of numbers. Let me show you how to use the range function. So this is an inbuilt function just like the print and input function. Here we can pass a value and it generates a sequence. So range 5 will generate a sequence from 0 to 5 excluding 5, that is 0 to 4. But now if you declare a variable number equal to range 5 and if you print the number it just says range 0 to 5, but this is not actually what we want. So to have the sequence of values we use the for loop. So for I in range 0, 5 or simply 5, both are same, 0 to 5, print I. This will generate a sequence from 0 to 5 excluding 5 like the one below. Now you can type in another thing like 6 to 12. So it starts from 6 and ends with 12. That is until 11. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You can also have a step value that is comma 2. You can separate it using a comma operator. And now for each value there are 2 jumps. So 6 gets printed, 8 gets printed, 10 gets printed. This is the output. This is how you use the range function. You can also use it like this. Num is equal to range of 10, 20, 2. So here 10 is the start value, 20 is the end value, and 2 is the step value. For number in num, print number. This is the same as previous one, but this is a bit lengthy rather than the last one. So you can use any of those methods, and this is how to use a range function. If you need to type something which the Python program should not evaluate, you can use the hash symbol. This makes it as a comment line. So this is the end of the video and thanks for watching. make sure to subscribe. And if you run it, the running is completed and there is no evaluation undergone. So this is the use of comments in Python. Thanks for watching.